All right, so it's been about 2 weeks since we were last here at the tank. Let's dive in and see what we've added since you were last here. Up first, as you'll notice, the water flow is a lot faster. I added these Aqua Illumination Orbit 4 gyre pumps. Yes, that's a mouthful, but these things push water. As you can see the ripples along the top of the water there. These are running at 1% right now, so these have a crazy amount of power. When I first plugged them in, I heard whooshing noises, and I came around the tank, and they were actually pushing up the entire sand bed, so I had to dial these back down to 1% power. Absolutely love these things. And if you can notice, our water's a little brown. That is because I added some botanicals. These are just a mixture of hard-leafed, basically leaves, and they're called botanicals. And what I did was boil these in the pot to reduce some of the tannins. They're still leaching a little bit, but it's actually beneficial for our bacteria ecosystem, and it will actually help our fish out to stay healthy. Beyond that, I think we're all caught up. We added, I added in here, I added our biomedia balls. So if you look in there, Custom Aquarium sent over a bucket o media. That is actually their product name. You get a big old bucket of bio balls. And I added some carbon in there just to help with the initial stages of cycling. And talking about cycling, we are getting to the ugly phase. Our cycle is getting to that phase where the wood's getting all fungusy, the ammonia's spiking, crashing, all of that. So what I've done to combat that is I've added a whole bunch of snails. So you can see one big old snail right there on that piece of wood right there. Snails, some people hate them. I love snails. I feel like snails are one of the best cleanup crew in any tank. They're gonna crawl over every crack and crevice of this wood and eat up all the fungus. And on top of that, I added some little baby mollies. Mollies are incredible at eating any type of algae, and it'll just help cycle this tank even faster. And when we end up adding our big fish in here, those snails and mollies will be an awesome food source for those fish. So without further ado, today is gonna be a bit of a techie, nerdy day. We're gonna be installing a Neptune Apex Pro series system to control and monitor the entire tank. Now you might be saying, aren't those Neptunes for saltwater tanks? You would be correct in saying that, but I am going to try to adapt a Neptune Apex Pro system to be able to help me monitor, all of my water conditions, control all my lighting, my water flow, and most importantly, I'm really excited to use the Apex leak detectors on this tank because this is the first time I've had a tank this big, and my wife and I are a little nervous about leaks. We made sure all the plumbing is good, but just having that little bit of redundancy and knowing there's something watching this tank is going to be best case scenario all around. So without further ado, let's dive into today's install of the Neptune Apex Pro system. So as you can see on our little project table, we have the Apex Pro A3 bundle kit, which comes with the enhanced energy bar. It comes with the smart controller head unit, which everything plugs into. It comes with their new optical leak detector thing here, and then it also comes with a liquid level sensor. Super excited to get into this. I'm also going to preface to you guys, I am very new to all of this equipment and technology, so this video is not really going to be a tutorial for you guys. People out on YouTube have created some amazing guides and tutorials that I was actually watching for about 3 hours last night. So if you're looking for an in-depth guide or tutorial, I would definitely recommend checking those out. This is more so just showing you my experience, showing you how I'm installing it all, and realistically just, having you along the journey and having a good time. But enough of that. We also have another secondary leak detection kit because I want to have 4 spots where this tank is being monitored and sensed on because I do not want to leak anywhere. So just extra protection there. And then another part of today's project is going to be cable management. So when I do cable management, I do not like using zip ties for a lot of reasons, but instead I like getting these guys here, if I can get one off here. These are literally just Velcro zip ties that you can put this through here and you can adjust and slap it down just like that. So if you need to make any adjustments down the road, let's say if you need, an equipment goes bad, you need to replace it, or you just don't like where that wire's at, that is way easier than undoing all of your cable ties. It just works a lot better. On top, we also have these little extenders here for the energy bar. When we put this guy on here, when we put the energy bar onto our control board down here, right down here is where that's gonna go. Having all of the huge cords and bulky power units plugged into the bar would stick out too far. So we're gonna be using our little black extension cords to be plugged into the energy bar, and then having this feed through the controller board to have our equipment plugged into it. And then also we got some really good Velcro here just to mount any of our controller boards or any of our equipment to the controller board, because a tip that I took very well from BRS Live TV when they were going over the Neptune here is they said for about a week or two, keep things Velcroed. You're gonna wanna move stuff, things maybe won't work well, or you'll come up with a better idea down the road. Don't screw things in immediately, you know, get some Velcro, it'll help you out down the road. And then last but not least, we have some of these little cable, little channels or guides. So with all of our wires down in the sump, there's gonna be a lot of wires, and I don't want to create any water traps or anything like that. So I'm gonna try to keep our cords up high above the sump's water line. With all of this, not only is that gonna prevent some water damage, but it's also gonna make it look nice, tight, and neaty. This is completely not necessary to run any freshwater tank, but having the extra peace of mind that everything's being monitored by something way smarter than me makes me sleep better at night. So right here you can see this is our, what is that? Apex base unit there. Again, I'm not gonna know the proper names for all of these, but what this is, to my understanding, is basically, if you look down here, this is gonna be basically your smart hub. This is where everything's gonna plug into, and this unit right here is gonna what's driving all of the monitoring and all of the control. So we'll dive into that later when we go plug everything in, but this thing has a nice little spin thing there. We can mount this to our controller board down here. I don't know if you can see that very well, but that'll be right there. And then we'll put our Ecotech Nano controller there and the power board down there. These right here are gonna be 3 separate probes. I believe one is an ORP probe, one is a temperature probe, and the other probe I'm gonna have to oh, it's a pH probe, that's what it is. And to my knowledge, these are brand new probes that Neptune has designed and released. I'm really excited to have them. Part of the video today is we're gonna have to calibrate all 3 of these. Luckily, Neptune includes all the solution you need to calibrate it. So with the temperature probe, we'll get a little cup of water, and we'll get a thermometer. We'll see what that thermometer is reading at, make our adjustments as needed. pH probe, it comes with a acidic water and a neutral water, so when you test it out, it can calibrate your pH. Let's get that out here. This thing is fancy. So here is that solution I was just talking about. There's that pH of a 10 solution and a pH of a 7 here. Something that I listened to on all the videos I was watching last night, people generally skip calibrating all of their probes. And even the manufacturer Neptune recommends to check all of your probes, because what good is it if you throw your temperature probe in there and it's off by like 6 degrees? That's not gonna be good for your tank, and that's not gonna be good for you. So calibrate your stuff. It is included, and it takes about 10 minutes. Let's get this all neatly set up. Something I always tell you guys is set stuff up neatly and organized, so when you go to install it all, it's not a chaotic mess. So I'm just gonna try to get this all neatly put around. I could show you guys this little thing though. This is gonna be the lifesaver. I called this the Save-A-Marriage. It's going to monitor all of our leaks. So if any water touches any of this right here, it's an optical sensor that will sense water. And the good part about their new leak probes is they're not one-time use. I heard their older model of leak probes, once it got wet, you had to replace it because it was a contact strip on the bottom that once it hit water, it wasn't good anymore. So we got their new leak probe there. We got the water sensor. I think it's a liquid level sensor. But what it's going to do is I can put it in any chamber of my sump, and if water falls below a certain level, I'll know it's time for me to add water and top up the system. Pretty cool feature there. Oh, and then we got our energy bar. This is basically the most fanciest power strip you will ever find. This thing Do not consider these as just regular outlets. Whenever I plug a heater into this outlet, this is now the heater. This is not an outlet. This is going to be monitoring your heater. It's going to be controlling your heater. And something cool that Neptune does is it tracks the amount of power each device will be using. And you might be wondering, well, how is that useful? Well, two ways. One, the app actually allows you to put in what your area pays per kilowatt on hour, and it'll tell you the average estimated cost to run your entire tank. So you'll be able to see how much power everything's using, and it'll tell you how much that's going to cost per billing cycle. Another thing that's really cool with the power monitoring is if, let's say your return pump is plugged into here, your return pump generally needs a certain amount of wattage and volts to be running properly. And Neptune will keep track of that. And if it ever sees it fall below the recommended wattage or volts for that piece of equipment, it'll alert you and say, hey, something's wrong with your return pump. It's drawing way less power than normal. There's something wrong with it, check it out. There could be a snail in your return pump. It could be clogged, it could be dirty. It's just another thing that Neptune does to help you ensure your tank is running safe and perfect. So we'll get this put out there. I'm assuming this is just the holder, the clip for our liquid water sensor. It is. We'll get that figured out later. We're gonna have to do some fitting here and there because these, I haven't seen one go into a seamless sump from Custom Aquariums, but hey, we're gonna make it work. It's not gonna be the most fanciest, and something about this is I'm learning as we go. So, within a month or so, I'm sure I'm gonna learn more cool things that this can do. I'm sure I'm gonna wanna change up the layout of it all, but for now, we're just gonna dive in, have some fun, show you guys the process, and get one step closer to finishing this 240-gallon paludarium. Oh, hey there. So basically what we're doing on this side is I'm getting all of our cords that are run from the two lights and the gyre over here, and I'm kind of trying to cable manage them up top so we don't get any water drips. And I just kind of want to run these along the sides here. And what I'm doing is I'm using these little doodads. If you can see here, they're just little clips. They're not permanent, and you can just kind of take them in and out like that. They kind of open up just like so. And if you can see, they're a perfect little diameter to fit all the three cords we have. So I'm gonna probably put another one right there and put a couple more to lead them over to our controller board. As you can see here, this was a lot easier than I was initially anticipating. What we did, or what Kyle did, and he showed me a really cool trick, is on the back on all the mounting plates, if you put a piece of blue tape on there, and then you use a pen to find where your drill points are, you can put the piece of tape where you want to drill, so you know you're lining it up just where you wanted. And realistically, we were going to kind of mock this up and just kind of see where everything fit. But when we just dived into it, everything fit just where we wanted it. We have our hub unit here. We have our return pump control here. We have our plant wall pump right here. And we also have our leak detection kit, our FMM module, and then we have our energy bar mounted here. And like I was saying earlier, we're gonna use all those black extension cords, which are right here. And these are just gonna plug into here, and they're gonna feed through these holes on the bottom. And all the cords are gonna be run back to the back side. And it looks like a mess right now, but we're going to use this little stool. We're gonna put this stool in the back there and have the power bar resting on top of this with all of the huge bricks. I know you've seen them. Let me see here. These big bricks, pretty much all equipment nowadays are gonna have these massive bricks. And I don't want anything on the floor of the stand. So we're just gonna use that little shelf to hold up the power bar and these little bricks. So we're gonna keep running some cords here. It'll probably take a while. We're cable managing, but we're just gonna keep showing you bits and pieces of it and check on in when we make progress as we go. So let's keep going. And then back through here. You got it. Woo!
Are we just cable managing right now?
Yeah, we're just cable managing. This is the return pump, and I kind of just had them all over the place just to start it and get the tank cycling, but now we're getting their final locations. What box did this come out of?
That was one of the big products in
Out
the
of that
actual
one.
Apex box. So yeah, that
Okay.
that probably actually goes from the head unit
To the bar.
to the
Yep.
bar.
Yep. Yeah, because the only two cords that the doser needs are over here.
Okay.
These carry power to them, both. All right, so what we're trying to figure out right now is we're not setting up the doser and reservoir today, just because I don't have the liquids that I'm putting in my reservoir. And honestly, we would just run out of time with all the cable management and setting up the full Neptune system. But what we're running into is just making sure we have enough cord length so I can have the doser and reservoir over here on this nice stand. Not only does it look good, but it'll also function really well because I can have my cords coming off the front here, going into the doser tubes right down here. And these things are just amazing. Not only is this just a perfectly built reservoir, it actually has liquid laser guides in it that keep track down to the milliliter how much fluid you have in those containers. So I can just pull up my app and I can see each one of the containers and see what their level's at. So right now we're measuring for the Apex app. The app, we're setting it up right now. We got everything plugged in and ready, but it looks like we need to get into the app to actually program everything so it knows what to do. And for the new aquarium setup, it was wondering what the size is. So it's 24, 96, 24. We'll hit continue. And this is all new to me, so we're gonna learn together, but it looks like we are using the new A3 Pro series, which is that one. And we'll hit continue there. Open up the box, make sure you got everything. We installed, well, let's go over here. We have the Apex Pro base unit, check. This is really cool that they do this actually. We got the energy bar unit, boom. Temperature probes, I remember seeing all three of them, boom, boom, boom. Liquid level sensor, we got that. Optical leak detector, we got that guy. And then the calibration packets, we got those. Hit continue. Let's do Wi-Fi. Connect to energy bar. Power on energy bar, cool. I see the blue logo on the Pro unit. I think we'll sit sure. Hey, they found it. Connect. Oh, and it uses 5 gigahertz networks. Oh, it's not supported, so it has to use a 2.4. So use Pretty Fly for a Wi-Fi. Yep, you know that's me. And this one is, and let's see if I remember the password off first go. That'd be impressive. Hey, success. We're gonna go ahead and hit finish setup right there. Welcome home. All right, so it is the I think the sixth weekend of all of us coming together for the Custom Aquariums 240-gallon open air paludarium. I am here to show you the last weekend of us finalizing this tank. I'm gonna give you a quick little update on where we're at, where everything's looking. There are a couple issues I want to address today, and then finally later on today, we're gonna be adding all of the Severums and Geophagus to this tank to really bring it to life. Catching you up to where we're at, there are a couple things I've done off camera. It's been a wild build of just tinkering and tinkering with it, but overall I'm extremely happy. First thing that you might notice is we have some plants drooping. I was expecting about 30 to 40% of these plants to die when you take plants from a soil substrate and you put them into water growth. Sometimes it just doesn't go as planned. And that's totally normal, totally natural. We have backup plans. I have all my plants in my fish room. I'm gonna take some of those monsteras and pothos, and I'm gonna have Kyle help me out, taking all of the dead plants out, and we're basically just gonna fill it in with plants that are already accustomed to growing in water. So I know that'll finalize the plant wall. And then second, one of the issues we ran into is if we come over here, we've actually had a little water leak right here, not a leak, but where we put a drainage hole, it started draining on top of the light. And unfortunately, with all that water, it burnt out this light. But luckily, I have another aqua illumination blade to put on there. But yeah, once we get those two issues, the plants and the light sorted, we're gonna be able to clean out the 125 and start catching all of our fish to throw them in here. And I can't wait to show you the final results with all of the fish in here. The only ones we're not adding are the Bashirs, because personally, I don't think that they're safe in here. I think the Bashirs will want to come out. So probably the last step next weekend is I'm going to take some mesh netting, and I'm kind of just going to try to cover the top of this aquarium. I've been growing those Bashirs out for like 2 years, and I do not want to lose them. I love them a lot. They're super cool, and I wanted them to be the main showpiece for this tank. So without further ado, let's get these plants taken care of. Let's get that light taken care of. And it's time to move these guys over into the 240. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take some of these sticks out. We're gonna take the lids off, maybe some of the rocks, drain her down a little bit, and everybody's gonna get moved into the 240 except for the Bashirs until I figure out a netting situation for the top of the tank. But yeah, we're gonna just film up this process. Netting these guys is gonna be a pain, especially those barbs there, because once they know you have a net in that tank, they are wild. I have seen them completely bury themselves in the sand. I have seen them jump out of the tank, hit a light, hit the floor. It's gonna be an adventure, so we'll keep the camera rolling for you guys, and we're just gonna net them up one by one as we catch them. So let's get into it. Do you wanna start with sticks, and I'll get the Python and CJ to drain?
Sure.
Cool.
Sure.
Kyle is a pro at catching fish, and he has way more experience than I do, so I think it's just gonna work out better for him to give it a good old go on it. We're pretty confident we can snag some of them without draining the water, but obviously with those barbs, and maybe once a lot of them figure out that they're getting netted up, we're gonna have to drain the water a little bit, but that's not a big issue at all. Let's start catching some fish and throwing them in the 240.
All you, Kyle.
Oh, man.
All you, Kyle.
There we go.
Here we go.
No pressure with the camera or anything.
He's like, please, There's a fish in that tank. They're snaking my boot.
Boots.
Instantly looks smaller. No way. Holy hell.
Which ones are you trying to avoid?
I'm not avoiding anybody.
The Bashirs.
Well, the big
Yeah.
stick guys, yeah.
Are those underneath? Are they right here right now?
Yeah.
No, no.
Oh yeah, and there's 2 plecos in there we can throw in. They're onto you, Kyle.
Oh, they're gonna get it though.
They're gonna get it though.
Ooh, that fish looks wild. Dude, when these Severums get netted, it's gonna be something. It's gonna be something.
Dude, yeah.
You're gonna have to let that.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Wild. Wild. Did you get that on camera? Okay, perfect. Is your camera okay?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, cool.
I've sent this thing to the ringer.
Okay.
My dad's dropped it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Come here, Biggie. Let's go outside. Come on, Zeke. Come on, Zeke.
You got 3 of them.
Nice. Huge. All right, well, after 2 years, I'm finally ready to give you guys kind of an end cap, my end thoughts on this entire build. It has been an absolute experience and a half, and I just wanted to go over some of my experiences with this tank, where we've landed with it all, update you on the fish, update you on the plants, and overall, just show you it in its best stage and how it looks today. When this started about 2 years ago, I had a dream of creating a mega tank that had a huge plant wall on top of it. I had no idea where to start, so with me talking with Bulk Reef Supply, my man Cade was like, you know what? I believe in your dream, I believe in your vision, let me help you out. And I was lucky enough to have him put me in contact with the guys over at Custom Aquariums. and they were able to take my vision of having a 8-foot long, 240-gallon tank with an immersed plant wall on the back here. So a lot of people wonder what this back support is. It's literally just a solid piece of glass that goes all the way to the top that has 2 drill points on either end. And what we did was we took spray foam, coco coir, little slotted mesh pots, and we just placed them all over the back and have it all drip down into the tank. And it is working like a dream. You can already see these peace lilies are starting to bloom here. We have, you know, the Spanish moss on here. We have the pothos up here, and we have these giant monstera leaves up here. It's just growing in amazing. Obviously, there's plants in here that are still kind of somewhat adjusting, but you know, like every plant, that's kind of what happens. And with this setup, it's so easy to kind of take plants out, put new ones in, and with most of them, as you can see, they're just kind of pinned into the spray foam with the roots going right into the tank. So it kind of gives that, you know, natural vines in the river flow feel, and I am just in love with it. The fish love it. I noticed a while ago these fish were a little bit jittery in the 125, and just watching them be able to have this much space has been incredible. So overall, this tank is a beast to clean. Doing my water change and maintenance routine on this is definitely a full day project. It takes me around, I think, about an hour or two to, you know, clean the glass up, clean the intakes out, trim up any plants. You know, doing water changes on it takes about, I know, an hour to drain down halfway and another hour to fill back up. So this is definitely a whole day maintenance thing. But the way we set it up with the plants is it doesn't need maintenance as frequent as a regular aquascape. It literally just exists for about a month until I notice, you know, my parameters are a little off, the glass gets a little cloudy, but it's just super easy and a dream to take care of. Talking about equipment, on the sides here, we have the Aqua Illumination Orbit 4, the cross-flow gyre pumps. These things produce so much water flow. If you look across the surface here, this is what's keeping the top of the water crystal clear. I have them angled up here. And then with the main return pump, we're using the Vectra pump from Bulk Reef Supply, the Ecotech Marine one. And something I did when we were finished with this project, and I didn't really get it on camera, was we set up this awesome little control board. And this just makes it super easy for me to understand, you know, what each one of my plugs are doing. So when I want to do maintenance, I can unplug certain things, you know, take the heaters offline, take the pumps offline. And then the Apex Pro, a lot of people will say that's kind of overkill, but for me, the main thing this Apex Pro is running are my leak detectors and my temperature and pH. That is just kind of having a peace of mind to monitor all my equipment, make sure there's no drip leaks, make sure all my equipment is functioning properly. With something this big and being literally in the middle of my living room, I wanted to make sure all safeguards were accounted for and measured. This has just been a dream. I could probably go on for another hour talking about how much I love it, but what we're gonna do is kind of just give you some nice shots of the plants, give you some nice shots of the fish, and in general, I just wanna say thank you to Bulk Reef Supply and Custom Aquariums for, you know, believing in my vision. This is the largest project I've ever worked on, and it took, you know, close to 2 years from me wanting this to happen and us being done. So thank you guys so much for believing in me. If you're watching this video and you're interested in any of the equipment, or you're interested in getting a custom built aquarium of your own, be sure to check out Custom Aquariums and Bulk Reef Supply. And if you want to go back and see how I did any of this, subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and thank you so much for watching and following along on my aquascaping journey.